books this year so far that you just have to read and maybe even reread. And part of it is if the sequel is coming out, but you have to actually wait a whole year because you're reading books that are current, like The Serpent and the Wolf. Oh my God, torture to wait a whole another year. So you just got to reread it again. And then I'm going to wait a couple months and I'm going to have forgotten more details and then just reread it again until next year, February probably, when the next book comes out. So what I did was as soon as I got to the end, well, I didn't want it to be over. And I felt like, oh, I had to see if I had missed any details. So as soon as I read the last page, I just went right back to the first page and started rereading again. This one I found totally by chance, and I played a really fun game with the bookstore owner, book salesperson, and I was like, "Hey, I saw this book, and I picked it up the last time I was here, and I started reading the first chapter, but I resisted buying it, but now I regret it. Can you help me find the book?" Oh yeah, I don't remember the title or anything other than the fact that there was like this sword on it, and luckily my daughter remembered there was something about a snake, so that's what she searched up on the computer. And I remembered it was hardcover and fantasy. So if you don't mind a little spice, this is spicy. The next two absolutely gotta read, must read books of 2025 so far. I actually did audiobook. I've been using this app Libro FM for my audiobooks, and it's kind of supporting independent bookstores when you purchase through them. And it's kind of the same as other monthly subscriptions, and I get one audiobook credit a month. So the audiobooks that I listened to were The Ministry of Time, which the premise is futuristic time, we've mastered time travel and we can bring back people from the past, but they can't be important figures. There's kind of, time travel rules, nothing that would significantly change anything because you can't change the past. But now you have like people from the past living in modern day identity, like following versus thinking for yourself. Um, and of course, a beautiful love story, which is the real reason why I read it. So, this one I listened to all the way, and then I got to the end, and then I immediately started re listening to. And I was hanging out with friends for the weekend for a weekend retreat. But I was still obsessively listening to the book, even though like I already knew what was going to happen. And usually that's the draw, like trying to find out what happened. But in these three books, like even though I knew what was going to happen, I wanted to reread it and enjoy it and like see any angles I'd missed. The third book that's a total must read, I also listened to this one, and it's called The Measure. So the premise is if you could know when you were going to die and how much time you had left to live, would you want to know? And how would that change the decisions that you make? So, really fascinating concept that everybody gets this rope, and it will tell you how long you have left to live. And some people choose to open the box and look immediately, and others decide they don't want to know. Super interesting characters and their lives, and the different choices that they make and how they live based on whether they know or not. So I wouldn't say these are necessarily like the most beautifully or descriptively written, but in terms of the characters and the concept, it really captured my imagination. So I was curious to see what the different characters would do and the choices they would make, and if it would be the same as like what I would do. Like, would I want to know? I don't know. I kind of want to know, and I kind of don't want to know. And then if I had this box that could tell me, I don't think I would be able to resist looking, just because I would just have to open the box. I couldn't just sit there in the closet and like know that I could know, but then not know. Anyways, gotta read, must read, top 3 books of 2025 so far, but I'm trying to read 50 books this year, and I'm doing pretty good. So we're a little over halfway now. So I've read 25. So those are the top 3 of the 25. Actually, let's make it top 4 of 2025 because I forgot. I also listened to Cloud Cuckoo Land, which I love the narrator and the audiobook, but I did want to get the book, which I have somewhere in my house, but I forgot. I can't find it. somewhere. But I wanted the book because there were details that I missed while listening to it. Like it had more layers and like jumping back in time and different documents. And so as soon as I finished listening to it, then I went and grabbed the book and had to like find the parts where I had kind of felt like I missed something, and I kind of reread those parts. But definitely 5 stars, and I think eventually I'm going to go back and reread it, but it's not one that I like started rereading immediately. I just got the physical book to like check certain parts. But definitely I'm going to include that in the list of the top 4 books of 2025 so far. So those are my 5 star reads so far, the 25 I read. All right, going down the list now, next to the 4 star books, I have 2 4-star books, and one is, let's see what it's called. Island of the Sea Woman by Lisa See is the next 4-star book that I want to rate. I mean, I really loved it. It's set in Korea, in Jeju-do Island, and so it spans like a great time period of history. And so there is some like war periods and horribleness that I did not enjoy reading, but ultimately it's about the 2 women best friend and their lives, you know, spanning like 100 years. So there's many generations involved, different time periods. I was kind of disappointed by the ending. I felt like a little bit let down by the end, so that's why it's only 4 stars. That's kind of the same with I just read. This is the book that I most recently read, Vanishing Half, and it's part of my July to be read list. Which, by the way, I did not do a very good job on. There's 2 books from my July list that I actually managed to read, and Vanishing Half is one of them. And the idea for this is so fascinating. But again, at the end, I was like disappointed because maybe just because like what I thought was going to happen didn't end up happening. So then I was disappointed. I thought there would be. I had a hard time because it's a story of twins, and so then halfway through the book it switches to tell the other twin's story, and for some reason I wasn't expecting it. I mean, it makes sense that each twin gets to tell their own story. The writing's beautiful, the characters and stories so beautiful, so it's definitely worth reading it. Okay, down to the 3 stars. Oh, even though I'm saying The Cruel Prince, I'm doing 3 stars. Also keep in mind that I obsessively read the whole series and like didn't want to leave the world, so I don't know what the deal with that is. It was definitely fun to read though because it was one of those books like the whole family was reading together. Well, like the teenagers were reading, and also, well, I like books that teenagers like. So it was a really fast, fun read, and kind of one of my early introductions to the whole enemies to lovers thing, and a little bit of spice, but not horrible. Oops, I'm gonna have to make it 5 books with 5 stars. I don't know why in my script I wrote it way down here, but definitely 5 stars. Okay. Inkbound, Meticulous Jones and the Skull Tattoo, another amazing teen female lead. And it's like the classic story where at a certain age, you find out your powers or you find out something about yourself, and she finds out that the skull tattoo she has predicts that she's going to be a murderer. So I guess I'm kind of fascinated, like with the measure and Inkbound. Like, if you could know something about yourself or your future, like what's going to happen, would you want to know? Even though it's like only getting to know one piece of information. But I also listened to Inkbound, and it was so cool, and I can't wait for the next book in the series. One downside, yeah, to reading current books is I cannot binge read them. I have to be patient, and then I just keep buying more books. Okay, I only have a couple of books left. This one, another audiobook find, just because it kind of popped up based on what I've been listening to. This is Will Prescribe You a Cat the one magical aspect of it is, I guess, the clinic where they go and everybody gets prescribed a cat as the solution, which, hey, um, sounds good to me. I love the concept, obviously, cat solving all your emotional needs and maybe even like day-to-day problems. I think there's four different main characters who need help. And so the only downside is that it kind of feels like four separate short stories, but tied together by the clinic and being prescribed a cat, which I think is good. Like, definitely recommend it to others to read. I don't know. I guess it's 3 stars. Okay, the last two were technically romance novels, but they made me cry because of the sad aspects of it. So I don't know if that makes it a deeper literary book, but still a romance. If you like romance and you're open to something more serious, like you don't mind crying through the whole book, then I will recommend Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. The idea is that she's taking care of her mom who has dementia. And so that was definitely very hard to read. And parallel to that story is her falling in love. The other book was also part of my July, the only other July TBR book that I ended up reading. Beach Read, Emily Henry. I don't think it's actually a beach read because the main character is a romance novel, but she's kind of in a funk and having writer's block because her dad passed away. So, again, very sad. I cried in this book, and it wasn't about the romance part. Like, it wasn't the third act breakup or whatever that typically happens and makes me cry. No, I mean, it had it just had another emotional layer to it. And so the funny part is she's a romance writer, and she goes to this, I guess you could say, beach house, and next door is someone who is writing more literary fiction, but he's also having writer's block. So then they have a bet and they decide to try and write each other's genres, which is very funny and I think someone should do in real life. And that's it for mid-year book check. Tell me what you guys are reading and if you have any good recommendations for what to read next.